I know the feeling, spending a couple of $100 on a gaming laptop that looks good on paper, only to discover it chokes on the first modern title and the screen looks washed out after a few weeks. The regret that follows makes anyone pause before hitting add to cart, especially when you're balancing school assignments, freelance work, or a side hustle that needs a reliable machine. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. And today I'm digging into whether Dell's Inspiron 15 touchscreen with an AMD Ryzen 5 and up to 32 GB of RAM feels like a smarter buy for gamers who also need a workhorse. First off, let's talk about what most buyers in this segment are trying to avoid: a laptop that can't keep a stable 60 frames per second in anything beyond indie titles, a keyboard that turns into a mushy mess when you're trying to execute quick combos, and a battery that dies the moment you step away from a power outlet. The Inspiron 15 tries to hit a middle ground between a full-blown gaming rig and a standard office notebook. It's a 15.6-inch FHD IPS touchscreen, which means you get the flexibility of touch input for sketching or navigating Windows 11 Pro, but also the wider viewing angles that matter when you're watching a multiplayer match with teammates on the side. Performance-wise, the Ryzen 5 5600H paired with 32 GB of DDR4 RAM is surprisingly capable for a laptop that sits under the $1,200 price point. In real-world testing, I ran a couple of recent titles ** Shadow of the Tomb Raider * and Valorant at 1080p with medium settings. The frame rates hovered around 5,560 frames per second in the former and consistently hit 120 frames per second in the latter. That's not ultra graphics, but it's enough to enjoy a smooth experience without the constant stutter you see on cheaper alternatives. The 1TB SSD also eliminates the dreaded loading screens that plague older HDD-based machines, letting you jump straight into gameplay or load large project files for school. Heat is where the trade-off shows up. The laptop's aluminum chassis helps spread warmth, but under sustained load the fans ramp up noticeably. I was gaming for about an hour straight and the fan noise rose to a whirring pitch that could be heard over a typical bedroom speaker system. It's not a scream, but if you're trying to stream your gameplay or have a Zoom call while the fans spin, the background hiss can become a distraction. On the flip side, the heat dissipates quickly once you lower the workload, and the keyboard stays comfortably cool, something you'll appreciate during long typing sessions for essays or code. Speaking of the keyboard, Dell equipped the Inspiron with a full-size layout and a dedicated numeric keypad, which is a rarity on many gaming laptops that opt for a compact design. The keys have a decent travel distance, and the actuation feels tactile enough to give you confidence in rapid key presses. However, the keycaps are made of a softer plastic that can feel a bit spongy after hours of intense gaming. If you're the type who relies on precise, clicky switches for competitive shooters, you might find it a step down from a mechanical keyboard. For most casual gamers and students who toggle between spreadsheets and RPGs, the feel is more than adequate. Battery life is another practical concern. With the 15-inch screen and a power-hungry CPU, you shouldn't expect a full 8 hours of unplugged use. In my day-to-day routine, attending virtual lectures, editing videos, and a quick game break, the battery gave me roughly 4 hours before the charger became a necessary companion. That's enough to get you through a morning class or a commute, but if you plan on long gaming sessions away from a socket, you'll need to budget for a power bank or accept the limitation. Portability-wise, the Inspiron sits at just under 5 pounds and measures about 0.78 inches thick. It's not as featherlight as an Ultrabook, but it's still manageable to slip into a backpack alongside textbooks. The touchscreen adds a layer of versatility. I used it to annotate PDFs in a literature course and then switched to a mouse for a tactical shooter without missing a beat. The IPS panel delivers vibrant colors, and the 250 nits brightness is sufficient for indoor use. In direct sunlight, the screen does wash out a bit, so you'll want a shaded spot for outdoor work or gaming. Now, who should actually consider this machine? If you're a student who needs a solid laptop for programming, graphic design, and the occasional game night, the Inspiron 15 hits a sweet spot. The large RAM buffer means you can run multiple IDEs, virtual machines, and a web browser with dozens of tabs without lag. The touchscreen also benefits creative majors who sketch directly on the display. For gamers, it's a decent entry-level option that can handle most modern titles at 1080p with respectable frame rates, making it a good choice for someone who doesn't demand ultra-high settings but still wants a reliable experience. On the other hand, you should skip this laptop if you're a competitive esports player who needs a